What's up guys, so Anime Midwest was just last weekend, and after taking some time to think things over, now we get to look at whether or not I believe that Anime Midwest lived up to the expectations that I had for it, or if maybe it fell just a little bit flat. So the first area we're going to look at is panels, because a lot of people I know play these on a high priority and how good the convention is, because if they have good or bad options, a lot of times make or break somebody's weekend. So panels for the most part did seem to start very well on time, and there was a significant number of them. The panel listings that were in the book were enormous and took up definitely 90% of the book, as it should have been, but it's a pretty big book, as you can see here. Like, the book's pretty big and it pretty much takes up a lot of the book. And the descriptions aren't super long, so there's a lot of panels to choose from. However, there's a few things about the panels that I feel like maybe could use a little bit of improvement. So the biggest issue I felt like I read up to was the map. The biggest issue with the map in this book isn't as much the hotel one, because it's somewhat self-explanatory when you get to the hotel. The issue is this one. So the issue with the review here is, so this is where it says registration, and this is where we assumed registration was. The problem was, I don't think this is actually where registration for the con was. It seemed like it was in this really big room, but it was that's the problem, is we had no means of telling what was where, because these hall A and B signs weren't around. The only hall sign we could see to a doorway was hall F. The map definitely did not help at all figure out where on earth we were supposed to go for panels, and it's not like we had one over there, so it wasn't a big issue, but it does kind of play into problems that I'll talk about later when it comes to personnel and the con, which isn't really part of a category that I specifically talk about, but is important in this instance. But I'm going to talk about it at the end of the category listing. I want to talk about cosplay stuff with this convention, because while there maybe wasn't a lot of like cosplay scavenger hunts or stuff like that, what this con did very well with cosplay definitely plays into my results at the end of the review, so I do want to mention a good number of things. The first thing I want to talk about is that cosplay is definitely pretty lax in terms of what they allow. Like, I was able to see nudist beach people. I mean, they had the lights, but usually they always have lights on their nipples anyway, because it's part of the show. But I saw a lot of pretty relaxed cosplay allowance. They actually still did allow like a lot of cosplays. They were able to have like shirtless Gokus, and just kind of leniency in terms of what they can show. Like, you can have stomach showing and a good amount of upper body showing, and even lower body, but nothing that like is breaching of any really public decency laws. So I think it's fine. I generally think it's how conventions should be, and so that is pretty good. And then cosplay meetup areas were actually pretty good. I do want to note that they were outside, so while that's really good for lighting and everything, it was very humid this weekend, and it was hot as well. And that mixture doesn't always really help with a lot of people's costumes, because it can make people very sweaty. So if they have makeup, that kind of can ruin it if they don't have like any kind of setting spray or things like that. And or their hair could get messed up. There's a lot of things that kind of can go wrong if things are outside. So while the lighting is really good, you really need the perfect set of weather. And I don't think it really disrupted cosplay meetups at all, or people's cosplays that much, because it wasn't so humid that it would have ruined people's cosplay or makeup. But I think the threat was there, and especially if it was raining, then they would have needed to be able to communicate backup spots, which could have been a mess. So definitely, like, it would have been better if maybe they were somewhere inside, but they did have the outside space available to them, and that did work out pretty well for the most part. So I'm going to take a moment to go over 3 areas that didn't really impact the results of my review for this convention, but are definitely things of note that I think people would find important. So the first of this section is the game room. It was really good. I wouldn't say it's as good as Milwaukee, because Milwaukee just knocks it out of the park, but it was still really good and had plenty of options available to anyone. But otherwise than that, I didn't really think it was anything special. The pachinko, kind of Chuck E. Cheese gambling thing, I mean, it was more like Chuck E. Cheese than it wasn't real gambling. was okay, but nothing was really alluring me to it, and the game room was just a thing to do. It didn't really feel like it was a destination in the con. So the location being in Rosemont, especially really close to Chicago, is really good because there's a whole things that are available to you. I mean, you can go to the Meetup marketplace, which is just like 10 minutes away if you drive in or Uber, and then there's a mall that you could even walk to that has a food court. So there's plenty of food options, there's plenty of things to do, especially with Pokemon Go. The whole hotel was a Pokestop, a gym, and the convention center was also another Pokestop. So there's so many things for you to do there. The location's great. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's why there's 3 conventions there held in a year, you know, so the location's great. And then the third small area is the Rave. The Rave was amazing. It was really good. It was definitely way better than Anime Milwaukee. I mean, I wasn't crazy about every single one of the artists that we did get to see, but it was definitely way better, and the setup was really cool. The stage was really well. The music was loud, which is what it needs to be. And it's definitely a rave that's worth going to and worth spending your time to go to because it was just really fun, and there was a lot of people who were really into the music. So that's always a plus. So the third major area that I'm going to go into is guests, because this is kind of where maybe some things are going to get more negative. There really were no guests of interest to me. Now, there may be a lot of you that went to Midwest and thought the guests were interesting, and Studio Trigger was there. So I would say they're definitely the exception, because Studio Trigger is a big name and them being there is actually pretty good. But they're the only one. A lot of the guests weren't like really big names or really even mediocre names. I would say that they were decent names that have done things but aren't really going to attract a huge crowd. I mean, I look at it as this, like Con Out Delete, which is a smaller convention done by the same group, Anime Con, in December last year, had Vic Mignogna, when Anime Midwest, the bigger and more popular con in 2016, had no one except for Studio Trigger, which people only know the name Studio Trigger. I doubt a lot of people, especially in the States, know the individuals in Studio Trigger and really know anything about them in general. So it's a big convention, and it seemed like it didn't really hurt it in terms of population, but it definitely would help bring more people in than I think they could have. All right, so the next major area is the merch room. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this, but it is important to me to make a note of it because there's a lot of options available to you in the merch room. This is definitely the best merch room I've ever been to, and it's definitely the biggest merch room I've ever been to. And it was perfectly organized. It was like this whole map here for the merch room, and like a list of all of the dealers and artists that were going to be here. So if you knew a name of someone, you could find it here and directly find it here. And then at least like once you got it oriented the right way, which I think was this, if you came in from the convention center was here. So usually if you just kind of walked in where it's like, all right, so I've walked in the door here. So now here's how it's laid out. It was perfectly laid out. And I don't know how well you heard me there, but it's fine. It was perfectly laid out to the map. It was way better than the convention center map. And it was definitely actually a really good merch room. It had so many options. It's definitely a merch room that I would say is pretty worth going to because there's a lot of things you can get. And the artists were definitely the best to me. I say the artists were the best in the way that I feel like it had a lot of artists that matched a wide variety of people's tastes and art styles. So finally, here's the general issue that I mentioned earlier in the video. This is something that I think bothered me a lot, and it's kind of twofold. So the first part of it is the badge checkpoints. There were a lot of badge checkpoints within the con, and seemingly an unnecessarily large number of badge checkpoints. Now, I'm not saying that there shouldn't have been security around the hotel and the convention center, because there absolutely should have. It's something that is good to make sure that your con goers feel safe and your attendees are well aware that they are protected. This is good. What's not good is checking for badges. Here's why. Not everyone is in the hotel for the con. I shouldn't be disallowed to go to the McDonald's because I don't have my badge with me. I should only need my hotel key. I should only prove that I can go in there because I have the hotel key, not because of a badge. So the walkway to the hotel from the convention center actually connects from many different areas, including parking garages, other hotels, and then the convention center. But the problem is that there are people who go to the Hyatt that aren't there for Anime Midwest. There are people there that weren't even there for Exotica, which was the other convention going on at the same time. If you look at the Hyatt O'Hare's Facebook page, there were a lot of comments about how people were being stopped and they weren't part of the convention and checked for a badge and they didn't appreciate it. I wouldn't either. They have every right to feel like they are essentially being harassed by security for badges. You shouldn't need a badge to go to your hotel room. The second area was the con suite, which, yes, was a general area for attendees so that they could sit back, relax, get some free ramen, get some free soda. The problem was that they tried to kind of take the easy route and make the whole con suite only available to attendees. The problem with this is that it meant an entrance from a parking lot. So me and Nick actually came back from McDonald's, came in through an entrance there because that's where his car was parked closest to, and I didn't have my badge with me because I didn't think, well, I don't need my badge to get pancakes. Now the other half of this issue may, to some, have been a solution to the aforementioned problem, which is that many times there weren't people stationed at badge checkpoints. It wasn't only just personnel not in front of badge checkpoints, but there weren't staff personnel in front of panel rooms, and this is a big problem. As I mentioned in the previous video, I was informed that there were many 18+ panels that people weren't checking badges for, and some that there wasn't even a staff member in front of the door for. That's a huge issue. That's a lot, because then there could be people that are under 18 going to 18+ panels, and the con could get in serious trouble from that, especially from parents. They should have staff members in front of every panel room, not just large sections like they did in the con suite, because the con suite should have an entrance and an exit row essentially for people to leave and go in the convention, and should have just had someone in front of like the ramen station, the soda station, and the karaoke rooms. Like essentially the convention kind of took a lazy route. Like they had somebody stationed here at the entrance into this whole area, which was a panel block. They just had somebody standing by the main door, and then it's like, oh well, then everybody could just go to these panels. The problem is, if it's 18+ and you have non-18+ panels in the same wing, then anybody can go to any panel regardless of their age, and which is a huge issue. So this convention is definitely for the experience-driven con goer. So what I mean by this is, while sure, the merch room was really good and the panels had a lot of options, there were headaches to deal with both of these factors that I could definitely see maybe where somebody wouldn't feel as great about them later on. But an experience-driven con goer is really those people that go to have fun. They're not people that just go to see guests. They're not people that just go to spend all their money. They're not people that just go to the panels. It's the experience of each of these things that they enjoy. They go because they like to make friends. They like to go meet up with groups. They like to do things with people that they'd never met before, or even people that they went there with. Like, to me, I enjoyed the experience of this convention way more than any panel that I could have gone to, and way more than all the stuff I got in the merch room, which really wasn't a lot because on purpose, I didn't want to spend all my money. But instead, what I really remember was the fun things I did with my friends, playing Pokemon Go, having fun in our hotel room at night before the rave, you know, going to the game room, playing DDR. Like, these are the things that I remember that were really fun. You know, I remembered enjoying myself when I was with a whole group of people, making jokes and, you know, making the videos and meeting all of you guys that were there. Like, those were the best parts to me. And that's what I think I definitely took from this, is that the experience is what is the best part. It's not just the guests themselves. It's not, you know, just the game room. It's not the panels, but it's the experience of having these moments with other people, whether you've met them before or not. So now, personally, I definitely would recommend this convention to all of you if you haven't been there. However, if you had a choice between something like this and ASEN or something like that, like if it was this con or another, especially one that might be closer to you if you live very far away, like if you would have to take a plane or above a 7-hour drive, I would definitely say then maybe passing on it may be the way. A lot of that really depends on how much this con tries to improve in the future, and some of the things that what I felt like were the big flaws that did take away from the weekend be fixed. I really did enjoy the con. I would love, and I'm definitely planning on going again next year. But if I wouldn't say it's worth going to more than ASEN, I wouldn't say it's worth more going to than a convention that might be closer to me if one existed. But it pretty much doesn't. So I'm probably, and I'm somebody that would go to both anyway. But I wouldn't, if it was dire one or the other for you, I definitely would say probably picking a different one that would better suit you, more likely help you out. So thank you guys so much for watching my review. If you went to Anime Midwest this last weekend and would like to let me know how it was for you, please leave some comments down below. Otherwise, you can let me know maybe some things that I missed about the convention. You could talk about any issues, maybe things that were actually solutions that I did miss, that maybe I was a little bit overcritical about. Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in more convention videos in the future. Otherwise, I've got plenty of gameplay videos to come out and Twitch highlights now that at least I've finished my convention horror editing time. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later. Bye.